They say grief has an ending, that one day you wake up and the pain is lighter, that you learn to move on. But what if grief isn't something you leave behind? What if it finds new ways to reach you? For Sarah Miller, grief came back as a message from a number she knew by heart, a number that should have stayed silent forever. 2 years had passed since the night her husband, Daniel, died. 2 years since she buried her heart and tried to start again. But one night, at exactly 11:42 p.m., her phone lit up, and his name appeared on the screen. Was it a mistake, a cruel prank, or something no one could explain? Because sometimes, love doesn't end where life does. Sometimes it lingers, in signals, in silence, in the spaces between what we understand and what we feel. This is the story of Sarah Miller, the woman who received a text from her husband 2 years after his death. If stories like this keep you thinking long after they end, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share where you're watching from. Because somewhere out there, someone else might still be waiting for a message that never should have come. She thought grief was something you lived through once, but sometimes it doesn't end with goodbye. 2 years after her husband's death, Sarah Miller was finally learning to breathe again, until one night her phone lit up. A message from a number that shouldn't exist, a number that had been silent since the day he died. What began as a single text would lead her into something far deeper, a mystery written in signal and silence, a love story that refused to stay buried. Because sometimes the dead don't say goodbye. They just find another way to reach you. It happened at exactly 11:42 p.m. A message from a number she knew by heart, a number that had been silent for 2 years. Her name was Sarah Miller, and 2 years ago, she buried her husband. But that night, her phone lit up with his name, Daniel Miller. Was it a mistake, a cruel joke, or something no one could explain? They met in college. She loved his humor. He loved her calm. They built a small life together, a cozy home outside Seattle, a golden retriever named Max, and dreams of starting a family. But 2 years ago, everything changed. A rainy night, a wet highway, a truck that didn't stop in time. They said he died instantly. But when grief hits, time stops for the one left behind. For months, she couldn't touch her phone. She deleted his number, blocked the reminders, and tried to heal. But grief doesn't vanish. It waits. She thought the worst was behind her until the message came. For a moment, her heart forgot what year it was. The name, the words, the time, exactly the way he used to text her. Her hand shook as she tried calling back. It rang once, then silence. But here's the part that made no sense. The number wasn't active. It hadn't been since the day of the crash. That was just the beginning. Morning came, but sleep never did. The message was still there. No follow-up, no explanation, just silence. But deep down, she didn't believe it was a glitch, because the message wasn't random. It was his phrase. "Hey, are you awake?" The same words he sent every night before the crash. At 9 a.m., she drove to the phone company. She needed proof, anything logical. But logic didn't help. The line, they said, was permanently deactivated 18 months ago. "It's impossible," the clerk told her. But impossible doesn't mean unexplainable. That night, it happened again. Same time, same sound, same number. This time, the words were different. Please, don't cry. Those were the words Daniel had written in the last note he left on their fridge. Coincidence or connection? She scrolled through their old chats, every joke, every fight, every I love you. Each one now frozen in digital time. The new messages had the same style, the same punctuation, the same rhythm, as if Daniel was writing again. And then she heard it, a faint buzz from the drawer where she kept his things. Inside, his old smartwatch blinked to life for the first time in 2 years. How could that be? The next day, she tried calling again. Voicemail. And this time, someone answered. What she heard next froze her heart. Breathing. Static. A voice. Faint. Broken. But unmistakable. Forgive me. Experts said it was a corrupted file. No data, no timestamp, just empty space. Was it a trace of a deleted voicemail? A trick of the signal? Or something that never left? Some voices find a way back. For the next few nights, she didn't sleep. Every time the clock neared 11:42 p.m., she waited. Sometimes the phone stayed dark. Sometimes everything else didn't. The lights flickered, the television turned itself on. The air felt heavier, colder. At first, she thought it was the storm. Then she realized the lights only flickered when she held the phone. Energy? Connected to emotion? Or something trying to connect through it? She heard it again. A whisper. Her name, carried in the static. She dropped the phone. But the whisper didn't stop. Phones, one man told her, can pick up frequencies we don't understand. Residual energy, unfinished thoughts, sometimes grief, acts like a signal booster. Energy doesn't disappear, it lingers. That night, at 11:42, the phone lit again. Not a text, a voicemail. And this time she wasn't imagining it. Forgive me, he whispered again, faint, but real. She took it to the police. They couldn't explain it. No file, no trace, no record of any message. But she wasn't the only one who heard it. Her best friend did too. It was Daniel's voice. There was no denying it. Science had no answer, and her heart, no peace. Her therapist said it was grief, that sometimes love echoes louder than logic. She wanted to believe that, but every night the messages came clearer, closer, as if Daniel wasn't fading, but finding his way back. That night, she dreamed of him standing by her bed, and just like before, he whispered, "Hey, are you awake?" This time, she answered. For weeks, the messages came, short, gentle, familiar. But on the 42nd night, everything changed. It wasn't just her phone anymore. It was the house. Every night, the same time, 11:42, the air would thicken, the walls seemed to breathe, and her phone would buzz. One message appeared. "Don't be afraid." Her voice trembled as she spoke into the silence. "If it's really you, tell me something only you'd know." A pause, then the reply. "The night before the wedding, you lost your earring under the bed." She dropped the phone. That memory, she'd never told anyone. The next morning, she searched the attic. Something pulled her there. A whisper in her dreams told her to look. Hidden under old boxes, she found his tablet, buried in dust. The screen flickered to life. Inside, unsent messages, photos, and notes, all dated after his death. And then a final message appeared on its own. "Look under the floor." That night, she did. In the old study, Daniel's office, she lifted the floorboards one by one until she found it, a wooden box wrapped in cloth. Inside, a phone, a letter, and a photo. The phone glowed faintly, though it had no power. On the cracked screen, a single unfinished text read, "If you're reading this, I'm sorry. I was trying to protect you." Something inside her shifted. The fear faded. What remained was the truth. She sat on the floor for hours holding the phone that shouldn't exist. The letter inside the box was written in Daniel's handwriting, but the date was 1 week after his death certificate. It began simply, "My Sarah, if you're reading this, then something went wrong." Her hands trembled. He wrote about a man he'd met online, someone who claimed to contact the dead, someone who promised to erase guilt and rewrite destiny. Daniel had always been rational, grounded, but in those last months, he'd changed. Nightmares, obsessions, sleepless nights staring at static screens. He mentioned a number, a sequence that appeared in his dreams. 11:42, the same time the first message arrived. He said the number haunted him, that if anything happened, the code might try to reconnect them. He flipped the last page. The ink was smeared, as if written in rain. The final line read, "Don't answer if it calls you first." Sarah's heart pounded, because she had already answered. The lights dimmed again. Her phone buzzed once more. Another message. "I told you not to look." She dropped it, ran outside. Cold air cut through the night, but the fear stayed. When she looked back at the house, every light in Daniel's office was on. His chair rocked gently, and on the cracked screen, a single word appeared. "Run."
On the fogged window were 5 letters traced from the inside. S-A-R-A-H. By morning, she decided it had to end. She took the box, the phone, and the letter to the lake where they used to walk, the place where he'd proposed. The sun hadn't risen yet. Mist hung low over the water. She whispered goodbye and let the box sink. For the first time in months, the air felt still. No buzzing, no static, no messages. Days passed, weeks, peace returned. Until one night she heard that sound again, a soft ding, but this time not from her phone, from the smartwatch she'd locked away. The screen lit up. A single line of text appeared. "Thank you for letting me go." Then the light faded, and it never turned on again. Sarah smiled through her tears, because maybe closure doesn't always come from answers. Sometimes it comes from the courage to stop listening. The phone remained silent after that. The nights grew warmer, and at 11:42, instead of fear, she felt peace. Because love, real love, doesn't end where life does. It only changes the signal. Some stories don't end in answers. They end in acceptance. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was something beyond our understanding. But what if love really can leave echoes strong enough to cross the distance between life and death? If you believe some connections never fade, then remember, sometimes the message isn't meant to haunt us, but to remind us we were loved. And if this story stayed with you, give it a like. Subscribe for more true mysteries from beyond. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because somewhere out there, someone else might still be waiting for a message that never should have come.